the arguments in the fan community get more angry and less well defined, I wanted to explain why I, as a lifelong Trekkie, am not watching the latest show brought out under the Star Trek banner. It isn't about whether or not Picard Season 3 is good or bad. I'm not going to debate that with anyone because to me it's irrelevant. Picard as a series has been a disaster, with many fans finding it difficult to go back and watch the shows they loved because of the character assassinations it perpetrated, not to mention the suggested corruption of canon. We've been describing the bad robot era shows in terms of something nasty served in a restaurant that you are vilified by the chef for rejecting, and that metaphor is fine as far as it goes. The problem is that we're actually perpetuating the idea that each show is its own thing, good or bad depending on its own ingredients, easily digested, or not so easily in some cases, and forgotten as soon as the next meal arrives. In fact, streaming seems to have brought about an era of disposable content, and that in itself is antithetical to why Star Trek has endured for so long. I keep being told that Season 3 of Picard is different, that it's really not connected to Seasons 1 and 2, and that it gives us what we wanted in the beginning. This is factually incorrect. 1. It has the same name and branding as Season 1 and 2. 2. It uses certain plot points laid out in those seasons like the Riker's family or Picard's android body. 3. It has characters whose presence would make no sense without the first 2 seasons like Seven and Raffi. The idea that there is no connection, that it does not follow on from the first 2 seasons, is headcanon. Now, while we have all done the mental gymnastics at some point or another to explain away some cringy scenes or plot holes, the truth is that it's never been this bad before, and after so many series of this, I am not willing to do the work for them. Therefore, I will judge this show based on the studio's version of events. But the studios don't care about canon. Well, that's certainly true when it comes to using it correctly. However, they seem to care about it a great deal when it comes to trying to legitimise their new series. Callbacks, references, Easter eggs, member berries, call it whatever you want. The only difference between those things is how well they're used, and when you're relying on them entirely to carry the show, you're doing it wrong. We're told that Season 3 is the end of the Picard series, but there will be future shows. People are already talking about a possible legacy series following on from it. Well, what happens when they run into the Borg? Are you happy with Seasons 1 or 2 being referenced? Do you want to see that or anything else that happened in them being continued? What about Discovery and Strange New Worlds? Do you want to see them being expanded on in future series? I don't. When you use things that large segments of the fan base have a problem with to start with, at best it's going to take them out of the show. And please don't say it doesn't matter. Fans have been debating trivia for decades. The continuity does matter to fans, and the worse the mess gets, the more apathy will set in. And now apathy doesn't mean we just stop complaining and keep giving money to the studios. It means we stop watching and quietly walk away. If we support good content, the studios will learn. No, they won't. They aren't listening to the arguments, they're only interested in the numbers. Yes, I know the new shows they've announced were already in the works and that they're not a direct result of the support Picard Season 3 received. However, studios do have the power to cancel shows that are being planned. If Strange New Worlds and Picard had completely bombed, they might have rethought their direction, but now the waters are muddy enough that they're probably going to feel justified in their current strategy. They owe us an apology. Well, yes, several in fact, but they're never going to give us one, so if that's your bar for ever watching a new series, I suggest you give up now. Bad Robot and Alex Kurtzman are still in charge. It's one thing to use them as a shortcut to describe the collection of shows, but let's not make it personal. I don't hate Alex Kurtzman as a person, I don't know him. I do think that he's shown that he's not able to understand Star Trek, or to hire people that are capable of writing and producing it. But if we got a new show that had no ties to this era's canon, and it was genuinely good, I wouldn't actually care who was in charge. We need to judge each show fairly and impartially. A new show perhaps, but if Season 3 is not a new show, and it's not a new canon, so having an opinion on the series as a whole is valid. You can't judge it if you haven't watched it. Again, experience has to count for something. It does depend very much on what matters to you personally, But with enough reliable information, you can draw some pretty accurate conclusions without actually seeing it. For example, Strange New Worlds is a spin-off of Discovery Season 2, which I did watch. Pike, Spock and Number 1 were all completely out of character in that, but I was still somewhat open to giving it a chance until they turned Spock and T'Pring's relationship into a modern-day soap. It breaks the canon of the episode, of the characters, and of the species. If that is their idea of respect, I don't need to watch the rest. Does that mean it's a bad show? Well, no, just that it's bad Star Trek, and as a Trekkie, that does matter to me. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions. Yes, absolutely they are, and I'm not going to hate you for liking it. But if you are creating headcanon to make this work for you, please be understanding of the frustration expressed by those of us who do not share it, especially if you are otherwise in agreement about the state of the franchise. At least we're getting new Star Trek. Well, that's the point. From my and others' perspectives, we aren't getting any new Star Trek, and haven't for a very long time.